You've felt it your whole life, haven't you? That sense of being slightly out of sync with everyone else. Like you're watching a movie where everyone knows their lines perfectly, and you're standing there wondering if you accidentally walked onto the wrong set. You laugh at the right moments. You nod when you're supposed to. But inside, there's this whisper that keeps saying, I don't quite fit here. Something about me is fundamentally different. And here's what nobody tells you. You're absolutely right. But before you think this is going to be one of those cheerful little pep talks about celebrating your uniqueness, let me stop you right there. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't comfortable. It's not a participation trophy for being different. It's something far more interesting, far more liberating, and yes, far more terrifying than that. Most people spend their entire existence trying to sand down the edges that make them different. They study the crowd like scientists, taking detailed notes on how normal people walk, talk, laugh, dress, think. They become method actors in the grand performance of fitting in. And the tragedy? They're so good at it that they eventually forget they're acting at all. The mask becomes the face. The performance becomes the person. But you can't quite pull it off, can you? Oh, you've tried. God knows you've tried. You've contorted yourself into shapes that almost fit, adopted mannerisms that almost feel natural, forced yourself to care about things that almost seem interesting. Almost. That word haunts you. Almost normal. Almost like everyone else. Almost fitting in. What if I told you that this feeling of difference, this sense of being fundamentally other, isn't a problem to be solved? What if it's actually a doorway? And what happens when you finally stop trying to close that door and instead walk through it? That's what we're here to explore. Let's talk about what this difference really costs you. Because it's not just some abstract philosophical discomfort. It's visceral. It's daily. It's exhausting. You're at a party, and everyone else seems to be effortlessly enjoying themselves. They're laughing, networking, playing the social game with the ease of people who were born knowing the rules. And you're performing calculations. How long should I maintain eye contact? Is this story I'm about to tell too strange? Am I talking too much or too little? Should I laugh louder at that joke? The mental bandwidth it takes just to appear normal is staggering. Or you're in a meeting at work and someone says something that everyone agrees with, and you sit there thinking, but that makes no sense. That's completely backwards. But you don't say it. You've learned that pointing out what seems obvious to you often makes you look difficult, negative, overthinking. So you smile and nod and feel a little piece of your authenticity die. You've learned to translate yourself. That's what it is, isn't it? A constant translation. Taking your actual thoughts, your real reactions, your genuine feelings, and running them through a filter that makes them palatable to the people around you. It's like speaking a foreign language in your own life. And the exhaustion of that? It's bone deep. And then there's the loneliness. Oh, the loneliness of being different. Because even when you're surrounded by people, even when you're loved, even when you're successful by every conventional measure, there's this gap. This space between who you are and who people think you are. Between what you see and what others see. You can be in a crowded room and feel utterly alone because no one is actually seeing you. They're seeing the carefully curated version you've presented, the translation, the performance. You've tried to fix it, haven't you? You've read the self-help books about confidence. You've practiced positive affirmations. You've tried to convince yourself that you're special, that your uniqueness is a gift. And maybe intellectually you believe that. But the feeling doesn't go away. Because deep down, you know the truth. Being different isn't the problem. Pretending you're not different is the problem. But here's where it gets really insidious. Over time, you start to internalize the message that something is wrong with you. You look at how easily others seem to navigate the world, and you think, why can't I just be normal? Why does everything have to be so complicated for me? Why do I always have to overthink, overanalyze, see things from 17 different angles when everyone else just takes things at face value? You start to believe that your difference is a defect, a malfunction, something to be corrected, medicated, therapy at away, and society reinforces this at every turn. Fit in. Don't make waves. Color inside the lines. Be a team player. Go along to get along. The unspoken rule is clear. Conformity is safety, and difference is danger. So you keep trying. You keep striving to be something you're not. And with each attempt, you feel the gap widening between your authentic self and the person you're pretending to be. Until one day, you're not even sure who you really are anymore. Now let me tell you something that might sound paradoxical. The moment you truly accept that you're different is the moment you discover you were never actually separate at all. Stay with me here, because this is where it gets interesting. You see, the entire game of trying to fit in is based on a fundamental misunderstanding. You've been operating under the assumption that there's a normal to fit into, that somewhere out there's a template of the correct way to be human, and you're deviating from it. But here's the cosmic joke. That template doesn't exist. It never did. Every single person you've ever envied for fitting in so perfectly, they're faking it too. Every single person who seems to navigate social situations with effortless grace, they're performing just like you. The only difference is that their performance happens to align more closely with the current cultural script. But make no mistake, it's still a performance. We're all wearing masks. We're all playing roles. The Buddha saw this. The mystics understood it. We construct these elaborate identities and then spend our lives defending them, maintaining them, terrified that someone will see through them. And the irony is that everyone is too busy maintaining their own mask to notice yours slipping. But you, with your sense of difference, you've been given a gift. A strange, uncomfortable gift, but a gift nonetheless. You've been unable to fully buy into the collective illusion. Something in you has always stood slightly apart, watching, questioning, noticing the seams in the fabric of consensus reality. This is what the mystics call the beginning of awakening. Not awakening in some blissful, transcendent sense, but awakening in the sense of starting to see through the game. You're like someone watching a magic trick who's beginning to notice the wires, the mirrors, the misdirection. And here's what happens when you accept your difference rather than fighting it. You stop trying to be the person you think you should be and start discovering who you actually are. And who you actually are isn't some fixed, solid thing. It's not another mask to put on. It's something fluid, dynamic, alive. It's the awareness itself, the one who's been watching all along. Think about the ocean. Every wave is different. Every single wave has a unique shape, height, pattern. If waves had consciousness, they might look at each other and think, I'm so different from that wave. Something must be wrong with me. I should be more like that wave over there. But what they don't realize is that they're all the ocean. The wave is just a temporary form the ocean takes. The difference is on the surface. The sameness is in the depths. You've been so focused on your waveness, on how your particular wave is shaped differently than the others, that you've forgotten about the ocean, and the moment you accept your difference, truly accept it, you sink beneath the surface disturbance and touch something vast and ancient and utterly free. This is what acceptance really means. It doesn't mean resigning yourself to loneliness. It doesn't mean giving up on connection. It means seeing through the entire framework that made you feel different in the first place, because you were never trying to fit into reality. You were trying to fit into a story about reality, a collective hallucination about who we're supposed to be. When you accept your difference, you're not joining some special club of different people. You're not claiming a new identity as an outsider or a rebel. You're doing something far more radical. You're stepping outside the entire game of identity altogether. You're recognizing that the you who feels different is itself just another construction, another thought, another wave on the surface. And in that recognition, something extraordinary happens. The burden lifts. Not because you've changed who you are, but because you've seen through who you thought you were. The difference that felt so heavy, so isolating, so much like a curse, it becomes transparent. You still have your unique qualities, your particular way of seeing and being, but they're no longer a problem to be solved. They're just the shape your wave happens to take. The sages throughout history have all pointed to the same truth in different ways. You are not your personality. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are the vast, spacious awareness in which all of these arise. And from that perspective, difference and sameness are just concepts, just more waves on the surface. So what actually happens when you accept this? What changes in the practical, day-to-day experience of your life? First, the exhaustion begins to fade, not all at once. But gradually, you notice you're spending less energy trying to be someone you're not. That constant translation I mentioned earlier, it starts to short-circuit. You begin speaking your native language again. Your actual thoughts, your real reactions, your genuine feelings start to emerge without passing through the filter of what you think others want to hear. And yes, this can be uncomfortable at first, because you've spent so long building that filter that removing it feels vulnerable, raw, like walking outside without skin. But here's what you discover. Most people don't recoil when you show up authentically. In fact, something strange happens. They relax because unconsciously, they recognize that they're in the presence of someone who's not playing the game quite so hard. And that permission you give yourself to be different, it gives them permission too. Your relationships begin to shift. The ones that were based primarily on your performance, on the mask you were wearing, those start to fall away. And it hurts. It feels like loss. But what you're losing is the illusion, not the relationship. Because if someone only liked your mask, they never really knew you in the first place. But the relationships that remain, the ones that deepen, they become real in a way you've never experienced. Because for the first time, people are actually seeing you. The real you, the different you. And they're choosing to stay. That fear you had that revealing your true self would drive people away, it does drive some people away. But the ones who stay, they're your people, your actual tribe. You also discover that your difference, the very thing you tried to hide, is actually your greatest asset. Because you see things others don't see. You make connections others don't make. Your slightly askew perspective on the world, that's not a bug. It's a feature. It's the source of your creativity, your insight, your unique contribution to the world. The artists, the inventors, the visionaries, the people who move humanity forward, they're all different. They're all people who couldn't quite fit into the existing boxes, and so they created new ones. Not because they were trying to be different, but because they stopped trying to be the same. And here's the really beautiful part. You begin to see everyone else's difference too. Once you accept your own, you develop an eye for the authentic in others. You can spot the fellow wave watchers, the other people who are beginning to see through the game. You find your resonance, your frequency, your people. Not through trying to fit in, but through being willing to stand out. The loneliness doesn't disappear entirely, but it transforms into something else, something closer to solitude. The difference is crucial. Loneliness is the pain of disconnection. Solitude is the peace of being complete in yourself. When you accept your difference, you discover that you were never actually disconnected at all. You were just looking for connection in the wrong place. You were looking outside when the connection was always inside. You start to trust yourself in a new way. All those times you doubted your perceptions, questioned your reactions, wondered if you were seeing things that weren't there. You realize you were often right. Your instincts, your intuitions, your gut feelings about people and situations, they were accurate. You just didn't trust them because they didn't align with the consensus. This is what it means to come home to yourself, not to some idealized version of yourself, not to who you think you should be, but to who you actually are, in all your strange, contradictory, perfectly imperfect difference. So here we are. I've walked you through the territory of difference, shown you the cost of denying it and the liberation of accepting it. But knowledge isn't transformation. Understanding isn't awakening. Reading these words isn't the same as living this truth. The question is, what are you going to do with this? Because accepting your difference isn't a one-time decision. It's a practice. A daily choosing to show up as you are, rather than as you think you should be. It's saying what you actually think instead of what you think people want to hear. It's pursuing what genuinely interests you instead of what seems impressive. It's allowing yourself to be seen, really seen, even when it's uncomfortable. And make no mistake, it will be uncomfortable. The people around you have grown accustomed to your mask. When you start taking it off, they might react with confusion, concern, even anger. They might tell you you've changed. And the truth is, you haven't changed at all. You've just stopped hiding. Some will adjust, some won't. And that's okay, because the alternative, continuing to live as a translation of yourself, that's not really living at all. That's just a long, slow death of the spirit, a gradual fading into the background of your own life, until you're just a supporting character in someone else's story. You have a choice to make. Not someday. Not when you're ready. Now? In this moment? Will you continue playing small, squeezing yourself into shapes that almost fit, living for the approval of people who don't really know you? Or will you take the risk, the beautiful, terrifying risk of being yourself? Here's what I want you to understand. Your difference isn't something that happened to you. It's not a random quirk of genetics or environment. It's your doorway, your particular path to awakening. The thing you've been running from is the very thing that's trying to set you free. The Buddha sat under a tree until he understood the nature of suffering. Jesus went into the desert to face his demons. Every wisdom tradition has this same pattern. The journey into yourself, the confrontation with what you've been avoiding, and on the other side, liberation. Your difference is your desert, your tree, your invitation to go deeper than the surface game of normal and not normal, fitting in and standing out, same and different. It's asking you to discover what you really are beneath all of that. And what you really are. It's so much bigger, so much freer, so much more interesting than any identity, any mask, any story you could tell about yourself. So stop trying to be normal. Normal is a myth, a collective agreement to pretend we're all following the same script, when really, we're all just improvising. Be weird, be strange, be exactly who you are in all your contradictory glory. Because the world doesn't need more people playing it safe. It needs people who are awake, and you can't wake up while you're busy pretending to fit in. The moment you accept your difference is the moment you become dangerous. Dangerous to the status quo. Dangerous to the machine that runs on conformity. Dangerous to everyone who's still asleep in the dream of normality. And yes, dangerous to the part of yourself that wants to keep hiding. But it is also the moment you become free. Free to think your own thoughts, free to live your own life, free to discover what's possible when you stop apologizing for being who you are. So here's my invitation to you. Stop trying to fit in. Start being real. The cost of authenticity is the loss of your illusions. The reward is everything else. You've always been different. The only question is, are you finally ready to accept it?